Hi, this is the voice of Heidie Calero with another very fascinating economic topic, because I do feel that people should know what is happening in terms of our public debt. After all, we've been since 2016, when PROMESA was signed into law, that Puerto Rico would have one escape route, which would be Title III bankruptcy proceedings, which are not called bankruptcy, but it's Title III, in terms of renegotiating some of its public debt and alleviating Puerto Rico's economic depression. Well, let's see what is the cost of that. And I must tell you that it is very difficult, as with any research project here in Puerto Rico, to get a very concise and very complete, comprehensive data or source that we can explain to you what is happening with the public debt. So we've been looking into PROMESA, their website, into the Financial Advisory Board, which is the sort of the heir apparent of the Government Development Bank, press releases. And so this is sort of the compendium of that. So bear with me, because it is a fascinating story that I have entitled Kicking the Can. Don't forget, those of you who have not subscribed, to subscribe to the voice of Heidie Calero and to give us a like in the economic capsules. Well, let's look at the first graph that I'm depicting here, the renegotiation of Puerto Rico's public debt. On the left-hand side, you see that as of June 2016, when PROMESA was signed into law, that's the Oversight Management Board that Congress has mandated, because Puerto Rico has not been very fiscally responsible and there are debts that have not been paid, the public debt. So on that score, let's say it was like $70 billion. I'm not including here the pension, the unfunded pension liability. So let's just stick with the public debt, $70 billion. And as you can see in this graph, all this, it looks like a rainbow, but there are different pieces of this public debt. At the very base, there are some clawback entities, like $2 billion. Then you have the Highway Authority, which is the deep orange, was about $6 billion. The gray, which is the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, $25 billion. Then you have sort of the yellowish mustard color, PREPA, the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority. And then sort of another light blue, which is the Aqueduct and Sewer Authority. Then you have the Government Development Bank, no longer in existence, but it had its debt and it's been renegotiated, about $5 billion. And then finally, it's the COFINA, which is based on the sales and use tax revenues. And that was the first one that was renegotiated. So $70 billion. Let's see. With the exception of the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, we have only included here what has been talked about, but it has not yet been renegotiated. But at least the others, you have an idea of how much Puerto Rico has reduced or renegotiated its public debt, from $70 billion to $44 billion. So that's a 37% reduction. That includes cash outlays that Puerto Rico has had to pay when it's paying its bondholders in terms of this renegotiation, and we have considered that. That's why it's $44 billion. So a 37% reduction. We would have liked to see more, maybe a 50 or 60%, as in other bankruptcy proceedings, but this is what we have. So that sounds like a good story. It's a 37% reduction. Let's look then at the annual public debt service of the Commonwealth and COFINA. Here we have what we renegotiated between Commonwealth and COFINA. It used to be $43 billion in bonds, and now we have $29 billion in bonds. So this second graph just depicts for you the annual public debt service. Again, it sounds like a good story. Puerto Rico now, instead of paying $4.2 billion annually, now it would be paying $1.2 billion just on Commonwealth and the COFINA. I would have liked to share with you what happened with the other especially the Highway Authority recently negotiated, or even the Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority. But unfortunately, the information is mysteriously very difficult and not comparable, and we are still seeking it. But it just gives you an example of what I'm trying to do here. So it sounds again like a good story, 73% reduction. But here is the crux of this capsule, kicking the can. What is the cost of this? Well, in terms of this renegotiation, it's not just cash that has been paid to these bondholders, but of course the exchange for new bonds. And here I'm just selecting the bonds of COFINA and for the Highway Authority, because as I said before, I do not have all the public debt service annually, and for the new bonds for the other entities. So this is a timeline. Let's start from 2022 through 2062. I don't know if you'll be alive. Some of you may. I'm certainly not going to be alive, but it just shows in this timeline the HA is the Highway Authority, and then COFINA. So here we have the cost 2032 for the exchange of some bonds. You're paying like $400 million. In terms of 2053, it's about $1 billion. And for COFINA, $31 billion. That's the principal plus the interest and all of this that I'm talking about by 2058. And then more of the Highway Authority new bonds in 2062, about $1.8 billion. So the new bonds issued between COFINA and the Highway Authority, we're talking about $13.2 billion. You know how much that is going to cost the people of Puerto Rico? It's going to cost $34.3 billion, 2.6 times the original or these new bond issues. So what is the story behind this? Yes, we have been kicking the can through 2062 for our sons and daughters and our grandsons and our granddaughters. So the message is, hey, if we are kicking the can, let's make sure that we focus on growing this economy and really making the restructuring of this whole economy, infrastructure-wise, to compete, because we do need economic growth in order to pay this debt service, but more importantly, that we can accelerate that payment so we do not have to wait until 2062. So don't forget, this is a service of Puerto Rico Economic Pulse. To subscribe to YouTube, as I said before, in the voice of Heidie Calero, give us a like, and don't forget that the economy is all of us. Thank you.